There are two main issues that you'd be concerned with when you want to go in and do a bankruptcy. The first one is, can I keep all my stuff? And the second one is, do I qualify? The first one, can I keep all my stuff? It's really think inside the box. So inside the box is all your stuff, okay? If you have stuff outside the box, they squeeze you down to what's inside the box, and they take away that difference. Anything outside the box, that's what they take away. They sell it and they pay the money to your creditors. Your trustee, your bankruptcy trustee on your case, becomes one of the creditors, and he takes a portion of that. He gets paid a percentage of what he can impound. So he's looking to see if there's anything he can take away from you and impound. So if all of your stuff does fit inside the box, then that's the stuff that you keep. When you crack the box open in California, we've got two lists of stuff that you can hang on to. The first list is great if you have a lot of equity in your home. You can keep up to from $75,000 to $150,000 equity in the home. Okay, if that's the one that you need, if you have $40,000 in equity in your home, you don't get a lot of equity on things like cars, money that you earned recently. If you simply have cash in the bank that you previously earned, or somebody gave it to you, you won it in lottery, that's not going to be protected, okay? But on the list already, on both lists, you're pretty much covered. Furniture is protected, life insurance, cash value is protected. If you recently had a personal injury claim or an accident, car accident, slip and fall, much of that is already protected. You've got protections for most of the things that you already have. Retirement plans, 401k plans are already protected. Okay, if you switch over to the other list, which is great if you don't have a lot of home equity, I like to call it the renter's list. It's basically the same as the federal list, but California simply said, hey, we're going to make two lists. We're going to make one that's great if you have a lot of equity. We're going to make one that's great if you don't have a lot of equity. And when they made the one for not a lot of equity, they simply mirrored the federal rules. And the federal rules are great if you're in Michigan or Ohio, where houses sometimes can only cost $2,000 to $3,000, but not so great in California, Florida, New York, places like that. So the different states are allowed to opt out of the federal scheme. When California opted out, they opted back in this renters list. So this renters list actually is a really neat thing, because if you don't have a lot of equity or you have no home equity, a lot of people are upside down nowadays, it still gives you a homestead of $22,000, a little over $22,000, and you can use this to cover other items of property. So for instance, the list allows you to protect one car up to $3,500 on the renters list. And at the same time, if you and your wife or your spouse, or you've got a second car, third car, maybe your son or your daughter is driving the third car, but it's in your name. It's your car and you're just letting them drive it because you had the better insurance and you paid for it. Well, we all do, right? So what you want to look at is, okay, it's $3,500 for the one car, but then you've got $22,000 you can use to protect the other two. Now remember, we're only talking about the equity in the car. So if the car is worth this much and you've got a loan on it for this much, how much equity is there? None. It's negative, okay? If the car is worth this much and the loan is worth this much, then there's a little gap there that you do have to protect. And if the gap is insignificant, then you don't have to worry about it. But on the other hand, you still have on the list $3,500 for the car, but you also have the $22,000 that you can also use to cover your spouse's car, your child's car, if they're all in your name anyway, okay? Now, if you're filing, I'll get to that later. It's an interesting issue about filing a bankruptcy when you're married but you're filing by yourself and your spouse doesn't want to file with you. Or maybe can't file with you because your spouse filed a bankruptcy too recently. We'll get to that in a little bit. But the neat thing about the 22 grand, you could have a small bag of jewels, basically. You could have a small bag of Kruger Anns and keep it. If it have to be a small enough bag, I mean, $20,000, Kruger Anns are an ounce. You're talking about maybe 15, 16 of them at today's prices. That you'd be able to keep. Walk around like a pirate. It would be silly, but I mean, you know, who would do it? But so you have to keep in mind that there are things that you may have that you wouldn't commonly think about. Hey, this is something I have to protect. So, for instance, baseball card collections. You know, if you're a middle-aged guy like me, 44, I think that's young, but anyway, and you have some baseball cards from when you were a teenager and you've kept them all in great condition because mom kept them in her attic or something. Now we're talking about something that's got some value. You know, it could be worth 10 grand if you had a lot of them. If you had a lot of them, there's going to be 1, 2, 3 really good ones in there. Could be worth 10 grand, 15 grand. You'd have to actually go and look. I had one client with a Barbie doll collection. I mean, literally 1 room, 2 walls of Barbie dolls, vintage, pristine condition. Got some value there. Got some value there. Could be a few $1,000s. I mean, as long as you're under $20,000, that's something you can hang on to. The other place that $22,000 is very important. Let's say you have a small business. I've had clients with a grocery store or something like that, but they didn't own the real estate. Okay, because they didn't own the real estate, but they did own the refrigerators, the display cases, the whatever it was, cash registers and counters, and the inventory. Very often, if we're talking about your normal size boutique, you probably don't have more than somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000 in the whole place. And I mean, if you have a small restaurant, refrigerators, ovens, display racks, tables and chairs, you may have a couple of TVs, things like that. Remember, we're talking about the wholesale value. This is we're getting rid of it overnight kind of a value. 2, 3 weeks, you know, your bankruptcy trustee, it's not like he owns a used car lot, okay? He doesn't own a used furniture store. He just puts the stuff up for auction and gets rid of it quickly. In case where I've had clients who are truckers. Now, if the truck is got 750,000 miles on it and it's 10 years old, we're not talking about something worth a whole lot more than between $15,000 and $18,000 in most cases, unless it's something very specialized. I've had clients that you know, the truck used to be worth $40,000. A new regulation comes across, and now the truck's worth $20,000 because it needs a $20,000 refit. That's a truck you can keep. Okay, we're talking about reducing, you know, not reducing the value, but what is the actual value. I had a client with a roach coach. Recent regulations have made it so that he can't sell his truck. If he ever goes out of business, he can't sell that to somebody else who wants to do the same business. It's over. So what's that one worth? Nothing. Hardly, you know, a couple grand, that's it. What do they go for when you buy them? I mean, that's something that somebody might have bought 5 years ago for $15,000 to $20,000. What's it worth now? He can't sell it. You know what I mean? So the $20,000 is very important. It allows you to keep a lot of things that you might not have thought that you could keep. You might have cash value in your life insurance policy of $15,000. Only $11,000 is already protected on the life insurance entry on your list of stuff you can keep. So there's $4,000 unprotected. The bankruptcy trustee could potentially take away from you. And what do you cover that with? You protect that with your homestead exemption. So that's a little bit about the homestead exemption, a little bit about keeping things that you